Let's talk about the anatomy of a successful internship.
So we thought that it would be better to hear directly from some people who had that experience. So what you're going to see next is a mentor and a mentee, an intern, talking about their experience.
Success can mean a lot of different things, right? Like people have different ideas of success. People have different goals for internship experiences. A mentor and their intern might have different expectations. So it's really important to communicate and have clear goals early on. And I think our dyads are going to talk about that.
Expectations are super important, like getting on the same page with your mentor about expectations. Asking questions. That's what science is all about. Like, that's the basis of science, is asking questions.
Asking questions?
Huh?
Asking questions?
Asking questions.
What?
Ask what?
Huh?
Who's on first?
Who?
So model curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's one of the best things you can do in your internship. And communication. Including what your goals are. Like, what does success look like to you? Like, communicating those things up front. And talking about, like, other obligations or commitments that you have in your life. So those are, like, some key things. So there's a really great mentor here at the Hutch who says, you know, she's known for being this amazing mentor. And she says, I'm not a mind reader. So like even this amazing mentor, right? Not a mind reader. You have to communicate and share with your mentor. So we're going to hear from two other people, talk a lot more about this in just a minute.
I had actually just started my postdoc. I was about 6 months in, and Michael asked me, would you like to mentor a student? Here's their CV, their research interests, cover letter, and I was interested in mentoring a student. I was afraid that I was too junior of a postdoc to mentor a student. But I read through the CV and cover letter, and I was like, oh, you know, Ricky is serious about this. Very, very talented, impressive CV, and I was excited to work with him. Just because I could tell that in that cover letter you were very passionate about research and you had that intrinsic motivation. So I was excited to meet you. I was nervous.
I think we had some like research in common because I did some metagenomics, and you also were working with something like that.
Yeah, we had that common thread. I think
yeah.
that's what where Michael determined, oh, this is Nick's wheelhouse, and Ricky will be fine with him. So, and I hope you feel that way afterwards.
Yeah, of course, yeah. It was really fun.
I would say that I was kind of a little bit of anxiety at first because this is my first time working with Dr. Harmeet, and also a lot of excitement because I was like really excited about the research on rapidly evolving proteins in his lab, and so yeah, just a lot of like butterflies in my stomach.
So my initial impression about Isabel is that she was way too quiet. I think our first real conversation about anything related to science happened almost 2 weeks after she had already started in the lab. And most of what I heard about what she was doing was actually indirectly through her mentor in the lab, who just told me how amazing Isabel was. And I said, well, that's great. I'd love to have a conversation with her. But she seemed to very studiously avoid direct conversations. This is sort of a normal thing with other interns as well, where they're a little bit intimidated by conversations with the PI, whom they see is like levels perhaps above their levels of experience, whereas it's much easier to have a conversation with somebody who's their direct mentor that they see on a day-to-day basis in the lab. I think coming to work, motivated to work and motivated to learn is the best thing you can do as an intern. It's really like drinking from a fire hose though, because there's a lot going on with the amount of resources that the internship gives you, but also what you're trying to learn in the lab in a very short amount of time and trying to accomplish a little bit of a scientific project and finish it within 10 weeks. So it's easy to get overwhelmed. Very, very important to start off on the right foot and recognize that your primary mentor may not be the PI, but actually your PI will be involved behind the scenes.
in the beginning understand your kind of the scope of your project conceptually, as well as the experiments to answer your research question. So make sure to chat with your research mentor to kind of figure out any gaps in knowledge or questions you might have. And then also just to reiterate what Dr. Harmeet said was just like be enthusiastic and and curious about your research project, so that can really drive you from the beginning.
So I wanted to make sure that Ricky was comfortable coming to Seattle for the first time, to a new lab and meeting all these people in a new research center. That's intimidating for anyone. So I wanted to reach out first with an email and say, you'll be working with me closely. Do you have questions, concerns, anything about the research, the lab, Seattle, Fred Hutch? Just kind of an opener. And I think that's kind of the mentor's responsibility to reach out first before that starts to make the trainee more comfortable.
Yeah.
At the same time, once you arrived, I wanted to make sure you got a tour of the lab, that you weren't just starting and here's a pipette, give me some data. I wanted you to, meet everyone in the lab, because you're going to be working with them too. Be able to build friendships, relationships with everyone else in the lab, so that you could feel like you are a permanent installation in the lab and feel comfortable and at home.
I think what also helped starting the internship with the right foot was to this is what I've done, and let's talk about the project and what skills are we going to build, and set up expectations, are we going to meet once a week? If that works, let's keep doing that. If that doesn't work, let's meet more. So that helped.
I'd say that the biggest mistake that interns make is not asking questions when they have them. So all trainees, interns, postdocs, grad students, they're going to be shy about asking questions if they think they're going to sound naive or not informed about a topic, or don't want to sound stupid. And I think that's one of the hardest things to shake off, but I think it's one of the most important things to shake off, and just, maybe that question that you have is shared by everyone else in the room, or there is no answer to that question. That can also be the basis of, maybe you're the person that goes and investigates the answer to that question. So, if it pops in your head, communicate it. Otherwise, we can't read minds.
One thing that I thought was important for a successful internship was, being able to carry out the scientific work that you needed in order to do your answer your research question, but also learn kind of the scientific, the culture, and understand how a lab works, and how to design experiments, how to write up your results. For example, at the end of the internship, we had to complete a poster, and so that was kind of a way to communicate our science at the end. But then I think most important is just meeting new research mentors and getting to learn about their science, and then kind of network with them, because they can be helpful people to go to after the internship.
To me, the successful outcome for an internship is, where is the intern 10 weeks after the internship relative to where they were. And I would say that Isabel grew leaps and bounds in her confidence and in her ability to take ownership of her project. Isabel failed to mention that she presented a research poster that won the Best Poster Award. And primarily that was because of the work she had done, but also the increasing confidence she had in presenting the work, because she had really understood why we were doing this research and what we could hope to learn from this kind of work. And that was actually more than what we could expect for a 10-week rotation. But if somebody really embraces not just the how to do the work, but the why we're doing the work, that is a successful internship, because then you really accomplish both of the important tasks of a scientist.
I usually had a lot of weekly, like one-on-one meetings with my research mentor, and that's when we would talk to each other about kind of the progress I made the previous week and if I was meeting my research objectives in order to kind of finish all of the experiments that I'd like to do for that summer. And then just like they personally would tell me like, oh, you're doing great, like you're making a lot of progress on your project, keep doing what you're doing.
Well, I will ask, I think that's the straightforward way to know if you're doing what's expected of you. And also, like, we will have weekly meetings, if I remember correctly, and go over what we did that week or last week, and then talk about some of the results and what are the future steps, or what are we doing now and how we're tackling this problem or this experiment. And I think as long as we did that, that was the expectation, to be engaged.
The goal for me and what I was measuring success for you was, are you working towards that goal of getting to grad school? Are you happy with what you're doing day to day? Are you still interested in this career path? So that's I would consider, in your case, I think it's case by case, but in your case, I would consider it a successful internship. In my hands, research is about 95% failure. I don't consider it failure because it's still getting me towards the answer, right? So sometimes it's just as satisfying for me to troubleshoot something successfully and get on with my actual research question than to actually answer the research question. So I think interns should also keep that in mind, that a summer of research is not a lot of time to get a cohesive narrative of a project that's supported by data. So don't be hard on yourself. Keep that in mind. It's still true in grad school. It's true in your postdoc and beyond.
I will just say that the CERT program is quite special because it's not just about interning in a lab, but you're part of this cohort of interns that are all sort of motivated by very similar things, going on to medical school or graduate school, going on to the biotech industry or whatever that might be. Take advantage of that as well. So it's your connections with your PIs are really important, but also like learn from the goals and career paths of the others around you. They've come from very different backgrounds, often different universities. And staying in touch with them is also a really good way to kind of get advice from a really good peer network who's going through exactly what you're going through. So, for example, some of them might help you read your statements of purpose and graduate school application materials when the time comes, and you should be willing to repay the favor as well. So that network that you create doesn't just have to be with your PI or your mentors. It can also be with the other trainees in the program.